Hey friends, and welcome back to Abridged by Alpal. This video is going to come to you a little bit off cadence, but instead think of it as me getting back to what the bi-weekly schedule would have been like had my laptop not been broken for 2 weeks. I just had the idea for this video and what I wanted to talk about and was so excited about it that I decided to do it right away. And then also with the ticket lottery for Dragonsteel Nexus happening so soon, I thought that the sooner I could get this out, the better. So like I said, today's video is going to be about Dragonsteel Nexus and all of the things that I think that you need to know before going. I'm going to be going in order of what you need to know the soonest to just kind of nice to knows, like either things that you need to know just for the day of or just kind of general knowledge to keep in mind while you're there. So let's get started. What I hope you have already done is sign up for the ticket lottery. I believe by the time this video is going up, it's going to be closed and they're actually going to be sending out the waves. So hope that you did that. If you didn't, go and put yourself on the wait list for tickets immediately. I know that they said that they're going to have one. I don't know if anyone on the wait list will actually have the chance to purchase tickets, but it's the very least that you can do if you think that you might want to go to Dragonsteel Nexus. On the subject of tickets, I would suggest you find a friend or two who would be willing to buy a ticket for you should their name get pulled before yours does. It doesn't take away all of the stress of getting a ticket, but it is kind of a nice guarantee just to be like, there's a good chance that I am going to go because I have other people who are willing to cover me should needs be. I do believe that they said that most people who signed up for a ticket were able to get one last year. I'm assuming that that takes into account the people who got a ticket through a friend because the emails are the same and they can probably match up names and stuff like that. So there's a pretty good chance, but it's still definitely a stressful like week or two of waiting for all of, what are they called, all of the waves to be drawn. And if you just have someone who's looking out for you, it makes it a lot better. Tickets this year they said are $125. The last 2 years there has been a book launch going on at the same time as Nexus. Sanderson, likes to have something special going on. So usually there's some sort of package for the book as well that he's releasing during that time. Well, the year before it was a VIP package, so I don't necessarily know what came with it. But last year it was the book and then it was a book stamp, like a nice metal one that came with the book launch package. There are also early access badges that you can purchase. You don't have to purchase them for all 3 days. You can just decide to do Thursday or Saturday or whatever you want, or you can try to get them for all 3 days as well. Those badges will get you into the exhibitor hall 1 hour earlier than everyone else, which I think is nice if there is something that you want to buy that you think might be a limited stock. There's also a chance, and this is not a guarantee at all, but there's a chance that an author or content creator or maybe someone that you want to meet would be at their booth or a booth that they're affiliated with, and you might have the chance to meet them without other competition. It's not a guarantee at all, but it is kind of nice to just get in there before the madness of the day. There's also the World Hopper Ball, but this year they're actually doing the after party. I really enjoyed the World Hopper Ball. I'm not really sure if I'm going to do the after party this year. I think that the fact that it's just one night and so they're making it a lot bigger seems very overwhelming for me. I don't necessarily know that that's going to be my scene, but that's always an add-on as well. Last year it was like $225. They said it's going to be cheaper because they're just doing the one big one, so expect something less than that. And then lastly, I know that there are lounge passes. I would recommend the lounge pass if you're someone who will get overwhelmed by like a lot of people and a lot of noise and stuff like that. The lounge doesn't usually have a ton of people in it. It's just a nice place to go and decompress if you're the kind of person who needs time away from other people. Otherwise, you can always go and like hunt down a spot in the Salt Palace. It's quite large, but that's always a bit of a gamble. If you know that you're going to like some peace and quiet, you can consider the lounge pass. Hi, I'm back. This is just a little update because the first wave went out today and I did have a friend whose email was selected and bought me a ticket. Let's go. But here's some additional information that I think might be helpful. But this is Tuesday night, so it's probably not going to be very polished. So this year there are no craft boxes for the add-on or like swag merch bundles. Everything will be purchased at the Dragonsteel store at Nexus. The prices for the add-ons are $75 for the Night at Nexus ticket. I did end up getting a Nexus night ticket. I was just gonna have too much FOMO about it. So $10 per day for the early access pass to the exhibitor hall, $25 a day for the lounge pass, and $75 for the book bundle. The friend whose email got pulled said that it didn't seem like he had to use his name and email. It's kind of good, kind of bad. I can see some people taking advantage of it, but for the most part, I think it's gonna help as many people get themselves and their friends to Nexus. You can get your badge shipped to you for $6, but it's one address for the entire order. So if there's 4 different people who live in 4 different places that all purchase their ticket in one order, they can only go to one house, and then you have to like find each other and find a way to hand them off, which honestly is probably better than waiting in line. And lastly, I'll do some research on Reddit to see if anyone's figured this out, but I couldn't find a way to connect my add-ons to my ticket. The way that I actually bought add-ons was that the friend who bought the tickets for all of us sent me a link to the add-on purchase page. And so when I go to like my Leap event thing, it just has my add-on order. There's no like badge or anything like that, which is a little bit confusing. Makes, I think, getting add-ons hard. Okay, I'm looking at Reddit and someone else asked the same question about add-ons because you can only add max 1 for each of the categories. And so it seems like other people are having this issue. The way that we did it is the way that someone else has done it. Someone else is also like the person who bought the tickets just bought everyone's add-ons for them. Yeah, consensus is either purchase them one at a time or send the link to the person and they can buy them for themselves. Okay, that's the update. Bye. So that's all stuff that you need to be considering now. What you need to be considering soon is your hotel and accommodations. I would recommend doing 4 nights, the night before and the night after, and this is my reasoning for it. Sometimes there's a fun event that an author who's coming into town for Dragonsteel Nexus will do the night before for people who don't have tickets to the convention, and I just think it's nice to be able to stay nearby in Salt Lake City should there be something going on that night that might run a little bit late. Also, the last night, I feel like you are just super tired by the last day, but you don't necessarily want the fun to be over yet, at least for me, and so you want to stay as long as possible. But if you know that like you have a drive ahead of you, or if you need to be catching a flight somewhere, it kind of takes away, and like you're like, okay, maybe I tap out a little bit earlier just so I have some energy to conserve. Whereas if you have an accommodation that's pretty close, you can kind of go to the very bitter end and have as much fun as possible.
Hi, editing Alpal here. I think this point is especially punctuated by the fact that the after party will be happening on the last night and is very likely to go late. So just take that into consideration.
I would book those sooner rather than later. Obviously, I think demand's gonna go up a lot once tickets are actually going out. I've already booked a hotel. I just wanted to do it before things got way too crazy with people who know that they're going to Nexus booking hotels. The next one I think is something to consider like 3 to 4 months out, depending on how hard you're gonna go if you want to cosplay. For cosplays, some people do them all 3 days, and some people do them 0 days, and there's a lot of people that do it in between. The people that I've gone with, there's a couple who did no cosplays, and then there's a couple who also did it 1 day. I did it 1 day last year. It's super fun. You will not be out of place either way. If you decide to not dress up at all, there's going to be a ton of people walking around in normal clothes. If you do decide to dress up all 3 days, there's always going to be people around. Whatever you're comfortable with, you are going to fit in with the rest of the group, which I think is really nice. Also on cosplays, these range from anywhere from just like a subtle nod to a character or a book all the way to like what I would call legit machinery. So once again, whatever your comfortability is with cosplays, there's going to be a space for you. They do cosplay like showcases that you can sign up for on the day that you're going to do your cosplay, and you can just go on stage. They take pictures, and it's really fun to see what everyone did and like the effort that they put into it. Like I said, sometimes those take months to make. Sometimes, you know, it's as simple as just going out and buying an item or two. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind between now and when Nexus happens. About 1 month before Nexus, they will post the schedule for all of the panels and the activities and what's going on. I highly recommend signing up for those panels right away. This is also last year, this is when the signups for getting signings dropped as well. I got one for Pierce Brown last year, but the two people who I was literally sitting in the same room as, all of us with their phones out, did not get the signing. I was like locked in. I was like, I know what I'm gonna do first thing, gonna go search for it, gonna make sure I'm signed up for it. So being on top of that like as soon as possible, I think is just like the way to go with this. It helps you plan when you can wander the floor and when like you need to be hustling from one end of the convention center to the other. For example, last year, like the first day was stacked full of panels that I wanted to go to, like literally 2 or 3 at all times going on. Obviously I wasn't able to make it to all of those, and then the last day I actually only had like 1 or 2 that I wanted to go to for the full day, and so I was able to push a lot of things back to Saturday, knowing that like there were so many things I wanted to hit Thursday, Friday, and it was going to be a lot more relaxed Saturday. So I was able to be like, if there's something I want to buy, I'll get it that day. And they don't usually check tickets necessarily to like who actually signed up for this panel to get in. I can see them possibly checking them if it's a smaller room and it's just getting too crowded and they need to start, you know, limiting access. If you're signed up for it, I'm pretty sure they're gonna let you in over someone who just wandered by and wanted to check it out. I think that the panels are super fun. Honestly, the panels are probably, okay, maybe the number 2 reason why I'm at the convention, because number 1 is always the possibility to meet some of my favorite authors and artists and content creators, but the panels are always so exciting. I always bring my big fat iPad and take notes because of how much I enjoy it, and then I can just kind of look back at what was talked about. There was one panel last year that was in part of my frontier saying like, just get your in the chair, and that was the panel that I went to that convinced me that like, yeah, this is something I want to maybe look into. I want to start a YouTube channel. I want to start making content that revolves around books and sci-fi and fantasy. So I definitely recommend the panels. You never know what's gonna hit home with you. The rest of this stuff is either day of things or just like nice to knows. First of all, the frontrunner in Utah is amazing. If you're not aware of the geography in northern Utah, most of the residents live in like these 3 valleys that are stacked one on top of each other, north to south. And so there's the train called the Frontrunner that runs all the way up from the top valley down to the bottom valley. It's super nice. It's a nice way to get into Salt Lake City without having to worry about parking a car. It does cost, I think it's like $5 a ride. They might be doing like 3-day ski passes. I can't remember exactly. It's definitely, I mean, it's cheaper than having to pay for parking anywhere in Salt Lake City. It takes a lot of the stress out. I think the only thing to consider is that the station isn't right next to the convention center, and it's going to be December, and Utah does have winter. It might not necessarily be in full swing in early December, but it's definitely going to be a bit chillier. So if you're planning on taking it, just make sure you have something to get you from the station into the convention center comfortably. There's also usually a couple of those like rentable e-scooters outside of the station that you can hop on, and it will get you to the convention center in like under 5 minutes. Sometimes I've been on those things from the station to the center, and the ride is so short that they end up not even charging me for it because I think I just like ditched it, that it, you know, it wasn't working or something like that. So it is quite close. I would say it's like a 10 to 15 minute walk, or if you're taking one of those scooters, like I said, you can be there in like under 5 minutes from the station. Also nice to know, or like the day of, everyone is so nice at Dragonsteel Nexus. Like I will be waiting in line to pick up my badge. I'll be, you know, just sitting next to some random person before a panel, passing someone in the hallway, and I'll like their cosplay, and I'll just like say like, hey, nice job. And then we'll end up having a conversation. Everyone is so nice. Don't be afraid to talk to people there. I said this in like my very first video. There's no like social hierarchy going on at Dragonsteel Nexus. So there's no one that's quote unquote cooler than you that you can't talk to. Seriously, everyone is going to be welcoming and invite a conversation. I also think it's really nice to make friends that are gonna go to the same panels and want to go do the same things as you, especially if you're planning on doing this alone. Last year, we got tickets with a coworker's spouse, and we were planning on hanging out with her, but the very first day she got called up for the what's it called? The Vanderlanche. And they split them into 2 teams and they had to do a bridge run. Her team ended up losing, but she made friends with everyone who was on her bridge crew as well. And then they ended up doing things the rest of the 3 days together. And I thought that was super fun. So it's super nice to have people to go with. Also, even if you're going to things alone, it's once again no social hierarchy. Like, no one's gonna be like, oh, that's a loner. I cannot stress enough, people are so nice at Dragonsteel. Just talk to as many people as you can if that's something that you're comfortable with, and I think that you'll be rewarded for that. Oh, what I have written down on my notes is, or just someone to wave at if you see them oot in a boot. I'm from Minnesota, so. Another thing kind of nice to know like day of is don't expect to see your favorite author wandering around. My experience has been that authors, like many of their readers, are very introverted, and so will show up for like their panel and then kind of like recede back into their hotel room. So don't expect to see them. If there's someone that you really want to meet, you're gonna have to be intentional and you're gonna have to be trying, and even then you might not. There are two exceptions to this rule. Two authors that will actually be wandering around. There might be more, but these are the two that I've noticed. The first one, who I know is going to be at Nexus this year, is Matt Dinneman. He will be wandering around. You might approach him to talk to him and he looks like, please don't do this. I promise you he's very nice, and like, yeah, he's got some social anxiety, but he will love to talk to you. The second one is Ryan Cahill. I actually don't know if he's going this year, but he is also an author who's like, I am here for the people who are reading my books. I want to be out there and I want to be meeting as many of them as possible. So he was also often wandering around. Those are the two exceptions to the rule. Everyone else, you're gonna have to be intentional. You're gonna have to be trying your hardest to meet them. And like I said, even then you might not. Also, definitely don't expect to meet Brandon. Like if you do, like, you've just been like struck by lightning. Like, the man is so busy during the convention. Don't expect to be meeting him. Next, there is so much to buy. Or not to buy. I call it BYOB, like build your own budget. You can definitely get away with just your ticket, bringing snacks so you don't have to like eat out, and either staying with a friend or finding like a good cheap hotel and doing Nexus for under $300, $400. That is absolutely possible. Or you can be a material girl like me and you can book a hotel that's super close so that you only have to cross the street to get there, and do a cosplay and buy a 100-sided die that weighs a pound and all of the knickknacks and stuff like that, and end up spending, I'm not going to say too much, but thousands of dollars. So whatever you're comfortable with spending, you can make it work. I really truly do believe that. The one thing I will say in regards to spending money is that there's not a ton of food options. So either bring snacks or plan on leaving the convention for meals if you want more options than just the 3, and or you don't feel like waiting in line, because there have been limited food options in the past. Usually the lines to get them are pretty long. I think that that's been a common complaint about Nexus though, so I don't know if they're planning on adjusting for that, but just in case, always have a snack in your bag, and or plan on leaving the convention for meals. Other good to knows, there's a bag check. That was really nice for me the day that I did do my cosplay, because I was wearing a dress and I had no pockets and I didn't want to be like carrying a backpack everywhere because I feel like it was gonna like ruin the aesthetic. So there's a bag check. It does cost money. Keep that in mind. It's not ridiculously expensive, but should something be weighing you down, you can absolutely drop it off. I also think that good shoes are really important. If, like me, you live kind of a sedentary lifestyle, all of a sudden going to this convention and like walking everywhere for 3 days straight. The Salt Palace is like pretty big, you know, and so you might be going from one end to the other to get to a panel or to a signing or to some sort of event that you wanted to watch. I think that good shoes are definitely key. There are so many artists to support while you're there, not only the authors, but the artists of many books and fan art and stuff like that. If you are the kind of person who loves to support artists, there are many, many ways to do it while you're at Nexus. Here are the, like, what I see as like the main booth flavors. So you either have your authors or booksellers, which is kind of obvious. Maybe authors that like aren't getting spotlighted will have their own booth so that people can go and find them, or have a booth just to like sell their merch. They might not be there all the time. Usually they're not, but just like if you want to get something Dungeon Crawler Carl themed, there's usually a Matt Dinneman booth that you can go and you can buy merch there. Another like really, really common booth is like people selling dice for D&D and other tabletop RPGs, and just like D&D tabletop things in general, like props or characters or maps or things like that. The number of dice that are sold at Nexus every year has to be like tens to hundreds of thousands. Like there's so many people selling dice there, which is so fun. Some of them are like artists that are designing and casting their own dice, to the like just bulk buy like a huge jar of dice if you want them. There's also the art and artist booths from what my point before, there's so many artists to support. There's going to be a lot of fan art that you can buy, official art. And then lastly, from like the 4 main categories that I would classify as, there's the fidgets and the knick-knack. Anywhere from like, there's a booth that sells just crowns, which I think is super fun, crowns and tiaras, to there was a booth last year that was selling 3D printed fidgets. It was like I think like a family thing, a father and son maybe, that was selling them. So those to me are like the 4 main booths that you'll see at Dragonsteel Nexus. If anyone is watching this from Dragonsteel and I had to offer one piece of advice, 2 maybe. So the first one, maybe fix the food options. The second one is I would love to see booths that are experiences. As much of a material girl as I am, I do feel overwhelmed by like clutter and knickknacks at times. And so as much fun as I might have buying these things, once I bring them home and I have to like find a place for all of them, I just get overwhelmed. So if there were booths that were selling something like an experience rather than a thing for me to bring home, I would love that. I don't necessarily know what that is. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking like super basic things like face painting, or I mean, I'm obsessed with nails, like someone who's willing to do some sort of like themed set of nails for you, someone who's like willing to write a short story for you. Yeah, experiences, not things, just because your backpacks get really heavy walking around at Nexus, and so I would love to see stuff like that. Okay, well that's Alpal's guide to Dragonsteel Nexus. If there's any other questions that you guys have, anything that you're wondering about, feel free to comment it and I'll definitely get back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye! Do I have lipstick on my teeth again? I just had a heart attack thinking that this said start recording instead of stop recording, and I said, no way. That's crazy. Oh, that's cute. Someone organizes Hanukkah menorah lighting at Nexus. I love that.